Our tour here at the Civil Rights Museums actually begins here at this timeline, 1865, the day that slavery ended. The fight for civil rights began here in the city of Savannah. However, it had already been underway, and it was through the black church. I talked earlier about Ralph Mark Gilbert. This is a picture of what it would have looked like, the first African Baptist church when it was founded down in Yamacraw. Those mighty ministers through the years kept it together. These two men, they were the two that met with General Sherman. General Sherman met with 20 ministers, black ministers here in the Savannah, and these two men, this man is Reverend Ulysses Houston, who would be the pastor of what is today First Bryan Baptist Church on that same site where the first African Baptist Church was founded. And this is James Merlis Sims, another minister of the gospel who was also a part of those 20 men who met with Sherman. Now, Reverend Houston was an enslaved man here in the city of Savannah who owned a butcher shop that happened to have been in the Montmalion building, the building that I talk about on my walking tour that I point out. And that building on the first floor is where he cut up meat. He went about the countryside and gathered up his livestock. However, he would pay his owner $50 a month so that he could work as an urban slave as well as be minister of this church. James Merlis Sims, he bought the Masons here to the city of Savannah, the Prince Hall Masons. James Merlis Sims was a brilliant man because his brother Thomas had also been involved in that Fugitive Slave Act, running away to Boston to seek his freedom. And of course he would bring, as I said, James Merlis Sims brought something very important to the men here in the city of Savannah in 1863. Everybody I know here in Savannah remembers Watch Night, when they were watching for freedom. They got a pass from the master so they could go to church. James Merlis Sims got permission to read the Emancipation Proclamation to those Africans here in the city of Savannah, and the Union Army came shortly after that and took over Fort Pulaski. Once they got to Fort Pulaski, the Union Army said, if you can make it to Fort Pulaski, you'll be free to join the Union Army. And that Emancipation Proclamation is what prompted then President Lincoln to issue the Emancipation Proclamation. Field Order Number 7, issued here in the city of Savannah at Fort Pulaski, is the reason that President Lincoln, again, came up with the idea of the Emancipation Proclamation. By 1865, the city of Savannah was alive. It was still thriving. However, we did have men who were selling Africans still, as Sherman was coming up the West Side Highway, I like to say. Sherman, by the way, didn't come directly into the city of Savannah because he had a delay. He had a mess behind him. He had 600 African people coming, trying to cross the river, and his general, who happened to have the name of Jefferson Davis, he pulled up the pontoons, and those 600 people went into the water because, you know, that was unexpected. They thought that they were going to be able to make it across. They were drowned. So Sherman, when he comes into Savannah, of course, I'm sure he felt something about that. So as a result, he meets with the 20 black ministers at the Green Meldrum House. And yes, he made the promise of the 40 acres, and yes, it did happen. He designated this land, these sea islands that today are connected by bridges, islands like Tybee Island, that is our beach, Wilmington Island near Savannah, Skidaway Island, where, by the way, this mighty man, Ulysses Houston, was able to go and work the land there with about 1,000 blacks. But of course, we didn't have email and cell phones back in those days, so nobody knew for a year. And eventually they would have to leave because, of course, everybody knows that order was rescinded. But what I say today, when we say reparations, 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 I say get your education, get your education, get your education, and buy your 40 acres yourself.
Fantastic.